Hi, I'm State Senator Michael Rodrigues, and welcome to the next edition of Voices from the Hill. And I am honored to be joined by my colleagues in the state delegation, as we call ourselves, the legislative delegation, members from the House, Representative Carol Fiola, Representative Alan Sylvia, and Representative Paul Schmid. Welcome, everyone.
Hello.
Great to be here.
Hello,
everyone out there.
Great to be here also. Beautiful weather outside. You know, that long, cold summer that we all sloshed through is finally behind us, and it's sunny skies and
now
beautiful
it's July.
temperatures.
It's July.
Now it's July, 4th of July, all the outdoor activities going on.
Processions
every Sunday.
Yeah.
Festivals.
We see Route 79, that's the so-called spaghetti ramps that have been torn down throughout all winter and now being rebuilt, and construction has begun and going well. And, you know, I just loved it. There's so much going on. We're so busy. But
South Coast Rail.
South Coast Rail. Representative Schmid, do you want to lead us off on South Coast Rail?
Oh, really?
Yeah, why not?
Well, I'd be happy
We'd like to bring good news, right, Representative?
It's good news, so please.
Well, it is good news because everybody has been saying, please keep this going. And we were happy to announce in June that the major design build contract, which is worth $250 million, is being let. So that, along with replacing all the ties south of Taunton and fixing 4 bridges this summer, I think is concrete evidence that we are moving forward. There's a but, and I'm sure one of my colleagues can mention how important it is about the next governor. What's that about?
We need to be sure that we have a governor that's going to be supportive of that. We have, we just had the Democratic Convention, and, we were happy to see right now, it looks like Steve Grossman came to the top as far as the Democrats were concerned. But both candidates, Democratic candidates, were supportive of South Coast Rail.
Absolutely, Steve Grossman and Martha.
And so it's important to have a governor that's going to continue to kick that can down the road for us to make sure that South Coast Rail is there for the city of Fall River, because it's so important. It's probably, it's more important than casinos. I look at Senator Rodrigues when I say that.
Why?
It's more important.
You wouldn't
than
get any
casino.
argument from the senator on that.
But it's important. And sure, we talk, and we hear people say, well, it's 8, 10 years, but it's extremely important for the future of Fall River.
That's well said, Rep. Sylvia, because you mentioned about the next governor. And as you said, both candidates are supportive of South Coast Rail, the Democratic candidates. And people watching, say, what can we do? What should we do? That's the 2 most important things. Ask your candidates if they're supportive, because it is solely up to the governor, solely, to release some of that and all of that $2.3 billion for South Coast Rail. This governor, who will be gone in January, is doing everything possible as his term is coming to an end. And so he authorized that release of $210 million, $250 million pretty much, and the other work that's being done in the rail ties. So what else can you do? Keep on it. Keep on us, keep on this, letting the people in the state know, letting your governor's candidates know, and because we'll be on it.
And it's an important time to mention voting. Voting is an important thing. We have a primary coming up in September, and of course the election general election in November. Voting is a very important responsibility that we all have as citizens. And Fall River has always been on, a lower percentage of voters in Fall River. We need to see people register to vote, and you can do that at our government center. You could stop by any one of our offices and register to vote. Give us a call. We can register you to vote. We can also file an application for you to be an absentee voter. So there's no excuse not to vote, and it's so important.
Yeah. And it's very easy, and it's very easy to vote. It takes literally 5 minutes to walk in and walk out. Yep. Even less if you've done your research beforehand. Most voters actually know how they're going to vote before they enter the polling area, the ballot box. And don't let anyone ever tell you that your vote doesn't count. I mean, I harken back to my very first election, way back when in 1996, when I won by 7 votes.
Well, we have that in common.
Yeah, that's right, Representative Sylvia. We have that in
I
common.
have a lot of 7s. 7th Bristol District, 7 votes.
7 votes. And I think, you know, how fortunate I was that I was the one with the 7 more votes than my opponent. But I think about my opponent, who was a good quality candidate, that as he was looking over the voters list, and how you vote is your business. You go into, it's the same between you and God. No one else knows how you vote. But whether or not you vote is a public record. And I'm sure within 2 minutes, he could identify 8 family members, friends, neighbors, those that would, you know, vote for him that did not even go to vote. So your vote counts. Please make the effort and your time. And it's important. It's important for Fall River.
And you know, this time, it's going to be a little confusing because we're going to see a lot of ballot questions.
Yeah, that's all flushing out now, and so stay tuned, because we're going to need to keep you educated on all of the issues that will be on the ballot, in addition to the governor, lieutenant governor candidates, attorney general, of course, state representatives and state senators will be on the ballot. So we beg of you to vote. It makes a difference, and with these type of issues that affect our region and our community so deeply, like South Coast Rail, who you vote makes a difference.
Representative Schmid, you're dying to say something.
I've been champing at the bit because on Memorial Day, I was asked to give an address out in Westport, and I said, I have 2 numbers for you today. 1.3 million and 20%. 1.3 million is the number of American servicemen and servicewomen who have given their lives fighting for our way of life. 20% is the number of voters in Westport who did not bother to vote in the last presidential election. And the number gets larger when you look at gubernatorial elections such as we have this fall, and it gets even larger when you look at local elections.
Sure.
So really, folks, in addition to the fact that that your vote does count, really, you should think of it as being a responsibility. That's what I was champing at the bit.
Okay, let's move off voting now. We all know how important voting is. Any other topics that anyone would want to bring up?
Lots of things going on. We just came from Washington. We had a meeting with Senator Elizabeth Warren, which was very good. It was one of the main topics we discussed was the King Philip Mill and how we will raise that building and get that building to the ground once the city takes that building over. It's a public safety hazard. All of our congressional leaders are aware of it now, and we looked at some of the possibilities with working with FROED possibly in the near future to do something, but we're waiting to hear that EPA report and what that means, and we hope to hear about that soon. But that's
Senator
another
Warren
issue.
was very engaging, very involved, asked great questions. You can tell when someone's just being nice to you, or if someone is very interested in hearing what you had to say, and she was tremendous.
She was focused, and she had a lot of concerns, issues that we're all interested in as a delegation with opiates. We talked about early childhood education and pre-K, universal pre-K. So a number of issues came up. She's very familiar, of course, with Fall River. Absolutely. And she's a smart lady, to say the least. And I was amazed by her ability to give us quick information about our city when here we were visiting from, the city. So
no, she's a bright woman, as you said, and she's been passionate and had a lot of support in her election, and I think she'll continue to have that support if she keeps fighting for us and for our particular community.
The recent polls out state that Elizabeth Warren is the most popular politician in Massachusetts.
And I can see why.
And you can see why. She just filed legislation that would reduce the amount of student debt that I cannot believe did not pass, and passed as Congress. But as we know, there are many congressmen and senators that are more concerned about the well-beings of financial institutions in Wall Street than they are about our pocketbooks in Main Street. But she's a fighter. And another issue that I've talked to her a couple times now, along with Congressman Kennedy and Keating, is the old Brightman Street Bridge. I want them, and they are, attempting to strike the language. As you know, language was put in a federal transportation bill that required that that old bridge remain. That was the attempt to stop LNG from going into Weaver's Cove. That's behind us. Now we need this rusting hulk relic gone. It's an eyesore on our waterfront.
It's a structural failure right now too, because a lot of viewers might be under the impression that if we get the go-ahead, that it's just easy to paint it up and use it as a fishing pier. But we've been instructed and by the experts and the engineers at Mass Highway and Transportation that the Brightman Street Bridge would require tremendous amounts of money to shore it up underneath. It's
Yeah, it's
a
gotta be
structural hazard, so it's got to go.
It's going to be torn down, and our plans are to incorporate, and as we improve in all the work we've done on Route 79, the new boardwalk going in, to incorporate fishing piers and access, because right now, unless you're lucky enough to have a boat or own a little bit of shorefront property, there's very, very limited access for the general public to fish, to recreate, to go down and use the Taunton River for
I mean,
recreation.
that bridge was always used for fishing.
Right, right. Oh,
so that will
absolutely.
be a great thing to have.
And as we sit here now, the boat ramp is so actively used. The parking lot next to the boat ramp has just been completed in terms of resurfaced. So as the Senator just mentioned, in the fall, the boardwalk on the waterfront at Heritage Park, the old part, pretty much from the Cove Restaurant or the Regatta south, all the way to the Carousel area, those boardwalk gangplank will be replaced. And that money's already been put aside. They're just finalizing a few more details, and it's a go-ahead. So we're going to have new boardwalks for us to walk on, and we know how important that
That's
is.
gonna
So
be great.
there are so many things
And there are
happening.
so many people that use that boardwalk. I mean,
yeah.
it's so great.
Morning
whenever I
through
go.
night.
I know Representative Fiola is always jogging down there. When I go by it, sometimes it's 6 a.m. I see her running about.
Well, why don't you
When
get
you
out
go
and
by
join
it,
me?
when you go by
I
at 6
can't-
a.m.
I
Why
can't-
don't you
I
join
can't
me,
do that.
Representative?
I can't do that. But I know she's out about, because I see her on Facebook like at 6:30 coming back with photos
Well,
already
that
up.
boardwalk is on my walk and talk with my constituents,
it
so
is.
and you're all welcome to join.
No.
Speaking of passionate issues, what's
No.
Upper Heights? And I know there's lots of folks out there who are concerned. It's an issue that is very important to all of us here and everyone in the community. And maybe you could get us started on that. I know the senator was involved with legislation back in 2001, and
Well, you're right, Representative Sylvia. It sits in your district. All four of us have been working on this, and obviously the legislation was passed. Senator Rodericks was in the House at the time, and it was probably one of the most heated issues of all, trying to reduce the density of this project living. The bottom line is there was legislation passed that provided for 26 single-family low-income affordable houses to be built there.
Along with the replication of all the units that were there, the families that were there, were not just being thrown on the
No.
street. That the city had to replicate those units, scattered sites
Throughout the city.
the city, so that we didn't have a project base.
right.
And that was done.
And
And
the city did that.
that replication was done. All of the residents were housed and found suitable housing throughout the city or wherever they chose to go at that point. So along the way, the planning began, and there was a lawsuit, and then there was a housing improvement plan done, and that housing improvement plan, in our eyes, and again, it all goes back to the legislation, but housing improvement plan was put together that said, oh, you can't do 26 affordable single-family homes. It would be too costly. And it based it on certain assumptions that we believe, as we sit here today, are false. The costs that they associated with that, rebuilds of those houses, and a number of other things. So what they did end up, what was signed is a memorandum of agreement that contradicts the legislation. And it's our view, and most people's view, that only thing that can contradict the legislation is other legislation.
That's right.
So the plan as it sits today, there's an RFP sitting on a shelf because it's been housed due to all of our efforts to ensure that that RFP, request for proposal, not get started, calls for 54 51 or 54, I think I have it, may be off 1 or 2, but let's say 51
Rental unit.
rental units on that property, along with 11 single-family homes. So let's add that up, 51, 61, 62 units of low income, and in many cases, extremely low income, versus 26 single-family affordable homes. On top of that, the senator mentioned that we had to replicate throughout the city affordable housing for the people to be housed that were in Watuppa Heights. But on top of that, this memorandum of understanding somehow now has asked for more replication. We've now replicated, according to the administration and CDA and everything, well over another 100, 150 low-income housing.
And we've gone way beyond what was asked, haven't we?
And they're not, now they're saying it's going to be at 30%, not 50% or 80% of median of the household income, but 30%, which brings down in terms of being extremely low income. Yeah. So just so you know, this group here has worked with the city administration, we've talked with housing, and we've met with the DHCD, which is the Department of Housing and Community Development, who is authorizing this plan. And we've called them together in Boston, along with the city administration, and said, hold it. This contradicts the legislation, and the bottom line here, and this is how we feel, I know Representative Sylvia and all of us here, if we don't work so vigilantly to try to go back to that language which was originally planned, it's our feeling that we will live with this decision. And we know that you know, and we know the numbers. We have been shouldering more than most other communities in the state's housing issue. We cannot solve the state's problems to provide low-income housing to everyone in the state. We can't continue to do that because we've seen the numbers. Our numbers are high. It's causing public safety issues. It's causing education strain. It comes with a lot in this mix.
Yeah,
Let's let Cohasset take its fair share.
And you know, and more than that, we're returning Watuppa Heights to what it was. So how are we taking a step forward? We're going backward. We're returning Watuppa Heights to the slum, really, that it was. So we can't do that. We can't allow that to happen. And, you know, and as was just mentioned, we made it clear to the Undersecretary when we were together in Boston. We are not going to accept more public housing
Can I just say
than
that
we
we
already
can't
have.
blame the Undersecretary.
No,
because the city agreed to this plan.
Absolutely.
So the Undersecretary is in a position now saying the delegations come and step forward, but the city agreed to this plan.
Sure.
We're doing what the city asked us to do.
Absolutely, yes, that's right.
So, I mean, you know, I'll blame the state whenever I can, but I'll also defend when.
Yeah, well,
when
you know,
this
the city
plan-
did that so that they could means to get those buildings raised, to get them down. Unfortunately, now
The reality.
The reality is
we've got a different plan.
But the plan that we're concerned with now is
the replication.
we cannot, and we've replicated that.
Right.
And any judge, if we end up in court, so be it, because any judge will see that we've done more than our fair share for public housing.
And I think we've said this, and I'm the new kid on the block, and I told you when we first started meeting here, the number one issue that people have been saying is, what's happening? How why is it that it seems that, and it's not what it seems, it's true. We have a lot of public housing, and we have, let's not confuse it, there's public housing and then there's private subsidized housing. And we have more than our share. I use this example, it's an interesting example. There's something called 40B that is a recommended program that is for affordable housing in a community. And the 40B rule says that communities should have or meet that 10% threshold for low-income housing or affordable housing. I'm not even going to say low-income, affordable housing. That could be elderly housing, veteran housing, family low-income housing. It's only 10% that they ask for. We far exceed that here in Fall River, but what's frustrating to me is, of the 51 cities and towns in Massachusetts, I did an analysis and it appears 42 communities only meet that statute of 10%. So over 300 other communities don't even have 10% of affordable housing, let alone low-income housing. So listen, we have been hearing you. We see it. We see all the effects of just continually building on more low-income housing. We want to take care of people that are here. We have people who want to come here, but we can't sanction without questioning something that contradicts legislation that called for this development. The whole reason this happened 14 years ago was to lower the density.
Yeah.
If this plan goes through, we'll have double minimum of what was there.
And so we're
before.
taking some steps now. We're going to be meeting with the Department of Housing and Community Development again.
And by now, the public meeting will have already occurred,
Yes.
where the city educates you
Yeah.
all at a city council meeting.
So we're hoping, we're going to put the brakes on this project going forward. Somehow, we're definitely going to do that.
And we proved that it's affordable to do it.
Yes.
We proved that this
Yes.
this plan, this 26
And you know,
units, can be done affordably, and it's
And we have the law on our side.
yes. And
You know,
thank,
so we
thank God for that
we have
legislation.
the statute.
Senator,
It was
thank
very
you for that.
clear.
As you have said, the law is the law.
You know,
Yeah.
we have the statute on our side. It's very explicit. It was constructed through a lot of debate, a lot of compromise, a lot of discussions, very heated, very controversial. Back then in 2001, there were two projects running this way. One here in Fall River, Watuppa Heights, and one in Lowell called Julian Steele Apartments. And it was, I can't tell you how, it's the most contentious issue that we've had to fight. I think it won in the House by one vote.
Yeah.
It was vetoed by the governor, or the override was passed by one vote. So it was extremely difficult.
And you know, Senator, it's important for people to know this because we are champions for social justice. You know, and particularly in my district, we have lots of poverty. If you visit the Viveris School, and I did that with Melissa Panchley last week when we had College Day, every student is on subsidized breakfast,
Yep.
all living it, basically meet the poverty guidelines.
Right.
They're moving in. Where's that family you met? Moving in from Wisconsin, Florida. I met someone this morning moving into Fall River from Florida. They don't have a job. They're being subsidized. They're moving into housing, which the lowest rent, one of the lowest rents in the Commonwealth. What's this? They're coming here. We just had a plane fly in to Massachusetts yesterday with foreigners from Arizona. We have to do something to stop this. I'm a moderate. I'm a Democrat, but we're going too far. And I don't want folks moving into this community who are not going to contribute. We have enough. And as Paul mentioned, and as it was mentioned at our meeting, we want to share those folks who come here. Go to Wellesley and Newton. Take some of that burden from us because we want to do our fair share, but at the same time, we can't take on that responsibility alone. Look at our school system. Look at the 32 children in some of our middle school classes, in our kindergarten. We talked about that last night. You know, it's a stress on us.
So I think the takeaway, you're right, Representative Sylvia, it's a passionate issue, and I think we're here, we've heard you, we've seen this, we're fighting this, and we'll be keeping you apprised because we'll be living with these decisions 10, 20, 30 years down the road, and this is not what the community wants.
We can't let this go.
The community wanted 26 single-family housing units, and so that's what we're working toward, and we'll keep you posted.
And you look at what we're doing, you know, with the waterfront and new development coming in, new business coming in that we'll be announcing soon. Yeah. You know, new things that are happening. Education. Look what we've done. Look what with BCC and others and UMass Dartmouth coming into Fall River. These are all positive things. We need not step backward.
Well, we're trying to build up. You know, we've had a big adjustment in our economy with the manufacturing change and the technology needed for the skills needed for today's jobs. We're in that transition. So if we just become a low-income community fully, there needs to be balance.
Well,
and so
yeah,
we're trying to
that might be a good bridge. That's a great point, Representative Fiola. Bridge to education, and the big discussion now is the next wave of curriculum and testing that MCAS, as we all know, now has been around for 25 years. There's a push to go to the next state of using technology, something called PARC. And there's mixed feelings. I've heard great stories from some teachers and administrators and students, and some concerns from other teachers and administrators and students. And I know Representative Fiola, you were at an event in
Organized a forum based on constituent questions. They asked some of my constituents, would you help us understand PARC? And so at Morton this week, we had some people come down in a panel, and I was educated because, we had, as you said, MCAS was here. It's here to stay. Well, we thought, but 2 years ago, the curriculum in the schools in Massachusetts changed, and it's called the Common Core. And so the school districts all had to come up with curriculum to meet the Common Core standards. It's education lingo that I really wasn't too familiar with before this. So now, for 2 years, teachers and students have been learning a new curriculum. What the state came up with was, we're graduating kids, and they're going on either to careers or college, but they need remedial work. They need more math classes that they're not getting college credit for. They're needing English classes, writing or such, that they're not getting credit for because it seems our students aren't as prepared as we hoped they would be. So this curriculum was designed to address that, and now they're saying that the MCAS testing is too weak to evaluate these new standards and this new curriculum. So they've come up with this PARC. Many states, not all, are looking at this, and we're in an evaluation period. And next fall, 2015, September, there will be a vote up in Boston by the Education Committee, Department of Education and Early Education and all that. They will vote whether or not to adopt the PARCS testing. Schools have been asked for this fall, 2014, will you want to join on and do PARCS instead of MCAS so that you're ready and prepared for it? And I really applaud the school committee after learning more, as we know, that they voted to not do PARCS this year, because think about it. We're still struggling.
Yeah.
We pointed out the struggles of our income barriers, education barriers in this community. We have extra trouble trying to catch up with this Common Core curriculum. Our kids, last night at the other night at the forum, parents were saying, I can't help my kids with homework at all. They don't have the skills, some of them, because some of them don't have any education.
You're so right.
And I heard the secretary, Chester Malone, speak on the radio, and you know what he said today? He says, I can't do the homework with my children. He said, I have to get a tutor. What do we expect? These children who are already on free lunch, how are they going to do that?
Time is running short. This is such a great topic and an important topic and a timely topic.
We could go another hour.
Something that we're
Just
going to
on
be hearing
education.
about,
Right.
because this is we're just in the research stage now. Communities are adopting it this year. Other communities are not adopting it. We have a year to evaluate this, but we know, we are very proud that Massachusetts has the best educated kids in the country. The problem is we're like number 12 now in the world, the United States.
We have to go to a full year of education, full year of school.
There's a lot of
We need to go to
changes that
school
need
all
to be
year.
made, which is why we support charter schools,
Yep.
why we support all schools.
Extended day.
So I thank all of you for tuning in for this news
We'll keep
session.
going.
30 minutes just goes by too fast. Bye, everyone.
Well, I
Thank
hope
you.
we can talk about economic development next time.
time.
We've got a bunch of things
Absolutely.
to report on
Absolutely.
We'll just
Very
keep
good.
going.
Yeah, we'll keep going. Yeah, we'll just go.
But you know what I don't like about the testing, and a lot of people say this. Where's the creativity in that? You teachers, this is so complex. Teaching is not fun anymore. Teachers are hating it because everything is about the test, preparing kids for the test instead of the creativity of what do you think? Where's the
This is all about striking a balance, because prior to education reform, a high school diploma meant nothing. You couldn't even